You've been told 4 times. I don't know if I could do it. How are you doing it?
I wanted the universe to feel sorry for me. As the 4-time cancer survivor, type 1 diabetic, and recovering alcoholic, who became an obstacle course racer and defied it all, I decided to pick a fight. And that was the first part of my story, is I simply had to make a decision between living and dying, and I chose to live. I wanted more.
Spartans, listen up.
We need to sleep better. So how do you sleep better? Never thought about it before. And so I met Jack. I met Essentia. Pay attention to the mattress you sleep on because it's loaded with chemicals.
Recovery, cooling, and pressure relief, all in one mattress. Up to 60% more deep and REM sleep. Less inflammation, faster bounce back. No toxins, no EMFs, no BS.
My buddy Jack over at Essentia, he's kind enough to give us a code for the Spartan community. That's DECA, that's Tough Mudder, all of us. Use Spartan25, get a discount. Prioritize your sleep so you can sleep faster, you can do more burpees, you can train more, you can get healthier. When you sleep well, you live well. Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan, host of the Hard Way podcast. Got my buddy Nick Klingensmith on the line. He's joining us. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thanks, Joe. How you doing?
Nick's been sick. When did you get sick? When did you find out you were sick?
The first time I was diagnosed with cancer was 20 years ago in 2005.
Shocker?
Yes and no. When I had an undiagnosed issue that had been going on at the time, and I just started seeing doctor after doctor. And when it finally was diagnosed as cancer, I wasn't surprised because I kind of had a feeling, a sixth sense of some kind that it was. At the same time, I was the only person I knew who had cancer. It's one of those things where you always feel like it's somebody else's problem until it becomes part of your life.
How'd you stay positive? My mom had cancer. Many members of my family had cancer. How'd you stay positive?
In the beginning, it was by picking a fight. It was me versus cancer. I talked trash against cancer all the time. Later in years, during my second and third diagnosis, those were in the time of social media. I would usually write posts, just, F you cancer, I'm coming to get you. But if I'm being honest, my positivity waned quickly. I wish I had the mindset that I have now. But I wasn't. It was just trying to survive. It was trying to make sense of it all and just trying to get through it.
And cancer wasn't your only issue. You've had some other health scares and issues.
Over the course of about 10 years, I was diagnosed with cancer 4 times. Type 1 diabetes at 27 years old. Sleep apnea at 26 years old. I have 7 herniated discs from 2 different rollover fatality car accidents. Multiple areas of nerve damage. I feel like I'm leaving something out, but yeah, there was a lot going on. Plus multiple injuries from my beach volleyball days, torn shoulder, torn hip, and I'm not getting any younger.
Nick's an animal. He goes out and does great stuff. I'm sure you're feeling a million times better, but what was the trigger for people watching and sitting and stuffing their faces who really want to change but don't? Cancer should have done it. You should have said to yourself, I would imagine, I want to get healthy.
For me, I had a series of things that continued to happen. And I wish to God every time something did that I woke up feeling that way. But I didn't. I was getting tireder and more defeated. And here's why. I was cultivating this victim mindset the whole time. I kept telling myself it's so unfair and then it's me against the world. And then I protected myself through all my drinking. And so it took a couple things to happen. The first is I had to get sober, which was a decision simply to live.
Let's go back there. Did the drinking start because of the cancer?
Alcoholism runs in my family, and I ran right after it. It snuck up on you because that's what it does, and it's progressive illness. And I was a very, very functional alcoholic. My career flourished during that time, but I knew long before I actually had to quit that there would be a time that I would have to make a decision.
So you're drinking, you're scared.
Yeah. So, my last drunk ended up in an absolute public catastrophe where, thank God, because that led to my last drunk. I was supposed to be the keynote speaker at my company's conference, and instead I got thrown out of the hotel the night before because I got drunk, blacked out, and tried to have sex with a hooker in a broom closet while my girlfriend slept down the hall.
Not so good.
So I found my bottom. And, I just celebrated 11 years of recovery last month. And that was the first part of my story, is I simply had to make a decision between living and dying, and I chose to live. But for those next 2 years, that's where I was stuck with this deception of comfort because my boss walks in my office and he says, "Hey, I want to do a Spartan race and you're going to do it with me." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. Like, that sounds terrible to me. Like an 8 to 10 mile trail with up. What are these burpees? No, I didn't want to be that uncomfortable." But I went home that night and I literally realized that I was sitting on top of the world. I was 2 years sober. I was a VP of sales, crushing it in my job. I was dating a new woman that's now my wife, and I had just decisively beaten cancer for the fourth time. But I realized I was stuck. I wasn't doing something. I had nothing that I was pursuing. And before my drinking and injuries had taken over, I was a competitive beach volleyball player. I wanted something just to actually start living again.
I've heard this story. I love hearing the story. I heard this story so many times about people that stumble upon Spartan. You say to yourself, if you're me, how could it be that just a little bit of barbed wire and a rope climb and, some hilly terrain, how could it be that that changed a person's life? Like, what was it?
I had spent so long building a bubble around myself. All the lies I told myself. I said out loud 1,000 times I would never run again because of my knees. Like my diabetes, I couldn't run. I couldn't adventure because of sleep apnea. I had basically convinced myself there was nothing for me to live for. And so I said yes to Spartan because I wanted to play volleyball again. I just wanted something to break up the routine and, get me back into shape a little bit. But all of a sudden I'm out there and it was back in 2016 in Benell, the old Jacksonville location, Florida. I'm just running through the woods like a little kid, playing on obstacles, crawling through mud, carrying heavy things. And I just felt more free than I'd ever felt in my life. I got the serenity that I saw when I was drinking, but I defied everything I believed about myself. I realized in that moment that I had been lying about everything. And so that's why for me, when I crossed the finish line that day, I wanted more.
It's addictive.
Progress is addictive. And if you're pursuing something, and for me in the beginning, it was about just challenging my perceptions about myself. And then it became about obstacle proficiency. And now it became more about how do I perform in the race overall. And so there's an evolution of things. And, everything that I do now is always something I swore I'd never do. Said I'd never run a marathon. I've run 6. I said I'd run an ultra. I've DNF'd more ultras than I said I wouldn't run. Training for my first Ironman. Fitness is a progressive disease.
And you're a writer? You're a writer and a speaker.
I wrote my first book I published it in 2021, which is a lot of the story we discussed. It's called Through the Fire. And what was so important about that book, though, is I put it out there for the person who might need the message, a person like me, because the word I hear about myself from people the most is that I'm relatable. They just relate to the stories. And so, that's why I post videos out there of my obstacle failures and stuff like that. I want to be the guy who helps you get off the couch that says, I can do that. If that guy can do it, I can do it. And so I put that book out there, and within the months preceding, strangers would find me on course or message me on Facebook. And they didn't tell me how great it was or how great I am. They just told me their story. They started telling me their story. And that's when I realized there was something else I needed to do with my life and my career. And I found a way to make all of my mind, body, spirit, and profession align in one.
It's a gift, isn't it? You when you listen to your own story, and I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, how many people out there wish they had some of that? They don't feel alive. They don't feel the way you feel when you go out and race, when you go out and complete something, when you go to bed early. There's so many people that just don't even know what that feels like.
Right after the pandemic, or not after, but when we first started coming back with masks and stuff, and it was in Jacksonville in that February, I think. So we had basically taken the year off. And when I crossed the finish line that day, I cried. And it just I was like, wow, I forgot how good this feels.
I can't even tell you at that race, how many people came up to me crying.
It came out of nowhere, just nowhere. And I was like, wow, I forgot just how good this feels. And it's, I talk about it in some of the speeches that I give. And I talk about how on the race course, because I run age group, but I'm not a threat to anybody's podium. And when it's a shorter race, or if I have time, I like to get extra laps and open, because there is so much inspiration out there. And it often comes, whether it be the obstacle that I beat for the first time, there's nothing more inspiring when you see the adaptive athlete out there showing you what mental toughness really is. And that's all I need to get more of that energy. And it's a self-renewing energy, and it's all around us when you look for it, and it exists everywhere in the fitness community.
Yeah, how's the community? That's what I was going to ask you. Did you make a bunch of friends out there on the course?
The community's part of what changed my life. I'm the guy who races with "fuck cancer" written across my chest in Sharpie, and people come out of anywhere to tell me their stories. They tell me about their loved ones. They tell me some things that are just so hard to repeat sometimes, but they also tell me about the hope, and you just feel like it helps me to feel like I'm not alone, because that's how I felt every time I heard those words that "you have cancer." It is the most supportive community, I think, across the board. It is one of those places where it doesn't matter if you're red or blue, a Cowboys fan, or if you're we're all out there with this one mission, and it's to support and encourage each other.
I love it. You gotta help us in our marketing. When I talk to folks like you that live the brand, right? That are out there, you articulate so well. Sometimes we forget internally. We're so worried about getting our medals and T-shirts to the finish lines and making sure the whole machine runs properly that you forget at its core, it really is just an unbelievable, very supportive community.
One of the coolest things I think that happened was, number one, I'm part of the Spartan 4.0 community, and that was just a family that took me in right away. It's funny because people talk about how fake social media is. Well, you know what? I see those people more than I see people in real life. I work from home. It's as real as you want to make it, and as how you get involved with other people's lives, because I am not unique in this community. The people that are like me, they find their way here. We draw strength from each other. Like I think that's one of the things I like about it is I blend in. Healthy people don't show up here.
What would you recommend to the folks that are sitting out there that maybe they can't take the first step? Maybe they're scared like you were. Maybe they don't want to do burpees. Like what would you say?
I would break it down to the wildly specific and stupidly simple, which is just sign up for something. Sign up. The very first step is sign up. There is no other thing you need to do first. Look at the calendar, Google the closest event, and Google the nearest event. Just get started, but commit yourself to it. Step one, sign up. Hit me up for step two. We don't need to talk about it until you do step one.
I like that. We should run that as an ad.
It's still wildly specific and stupidly simple. And I'll tell you that actually for me, that's what I had to do. I signed up and then I reverse engineered a training plan based on from where I was. And that was it.
Yeah, it's the paradox, right? We say it all the time, the Spartan paradox. Like, I'm not going to do it because I'm not ready. I'm not going to do it. I'm not in shape. I'm not going to do it. None of those things are going to happen if you don't sign up. Because if they were going to happen, you would already be doing them.
Exactly.
But you're not. I guess the big takeaway for me listening to you, Nick, is we're going to get punched in the face in life. We're going to get news we don't want to get. We're going to be scared out of our mind. But you just got to put one foot in front of the other.
The couple things that I've learned is I daydream a lot. I spend a lot of time running, and it's just me in my head. And so I have very clear visions, a vision for myself of what I want for myself, for my life, out of me. Call it your why, call it your purpose or direction. When I'm training for the Killington Ultra 0-4, when people ask me how I wake up at 4 in the morning, that's how. I don't wake up at 4 for my run. I wake up for what it means for me when I will take down that race. And so I believe in a big why. When you have that big vision, and I mean dream bigger. When I'm working with people, that's the first thing I have to do is send them back to the mat. Dream bigger, because it has to be big enough for you to endure the things that come along. It has to be bigger than the challenges. And then, not for nothing, you know what the first three obstacles are? They're the first 3 steps.
So look, Nick, one bout with cancer, one terrible message from the doctor would stop most people in their tracks. You've been told 4 times. I know this great saying, there's nothing in life you can't walk off, but I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. How are you doing it?
I'm going to fast forward a little bit, because about 6 months after I started racing Spartan, after my first race, I made it a lifestyle. Immediately signed up for a trifecta, training 6 days a week. Everything was progressive. And throughout that 6 months, I was literally improving in mind, body, and spirit. For the first time in my entire life, I liked the guy that I saw in the mirror. And I was hit by a car. I was hit from behind by a woman going full speed who flipped her car 4 times. As a result of that accident, I got several herniated discs. That same day, my cat of 12 years died. 10 days later, the lady who hit me died. I had nerve damage as a result of the accident. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was completely floored. That's when I wanted to quit. I literally I said out loud every day, I want to quit. I quit. I give up. But every day you go to work And every day you take a shower, and I had to get food for the dog. And so you start living your life a little more. And I put another race on the calendar. But the thing is, I wasn't in it. I was stuck. I couldn't move. And so I wish I could tell you that it was what happened next was anything other than a glorified temper tantrum. But that's what happened, because I decided and I realized, even though I was sober and I was doing all this cool stuff now, I was still playing a victim. I was still whining to the gods about how unfair it all was. No wonder I was stuck. And I was defining myself by my diabetes. I was defining myself by my injuries. I was defining myself by my bad luck. I wanted the universe to feel sorry for me. No wonder I was stuck. And so it threw a fit when I realized and saw this in myself. And I decided that from then on, I will be defined as the 4-time cancer survivor, type 1 diabetic, recovering alcoholic, who became an obstacle course racer and defied it all. I decided to pick a fight with every single thing that gets in front of me. And I'm not kidding. It's like a game to me now. When I popped my hamstring in the Dallas Ultra a couple years ago, when I came home after one day of being mad about it, I said, okay, I get to learn how to overcome this now.
And you get to compare yourself to somebody, God forbid, missing some legs, or imagine what Vietnam was like, or we could be living in northern Siberia, right? Like, you get a little perspective when you say, yeah, it sucks, but it's not as bad as some of the shit out there.
I'm very careful with comparison, though, because I don't know, just everyone's frame of reference, I think, is relevant. And I think it doesn't necessarily make me say, like, oh, thank God I'm not that, or it couldn't. I'm certainly appreciative. I'm more respectful and appreciative of what that person's going through, I think, instead of making me feel better or worse about my situation. I also want to remember where I came from. I mean, like, I didn't come from much. And I've been able to experience a lot of life. There's so much to be grateful for, regardless of these other things. And I always say this too, on my worst days, there's a lot of people out there who would want to be me.
Well, that's it. That's the perspective right there.
And it's just, gratitude helps. You can't harbor those sort of stuck moments, feelings in the exact same moment that we're expressing gratitude for something.
Gratitude is it's an amazing cure. You're an inspiration. I love running into you at races. I want you out there more. I'd love a bunch of clips like this to just inspire the folks. You nailed stuff I've been trying to say for 25 years, so I love it.
I read, I don't remember which one, but I read one of your books before I started, like, we got right into it. I was sold, okay? But it's also because, remember, it's what I wanted. I grew up very soft. I was afraid. I have a version of my speech, and actually this was one of the coolest things ever. The day before my 45th birthday, I got to deliver a speech to a group of 8th graders in Paterson, New Jersey. The very next day was the race at Vernon. It was my 100th race and my first perfect beast. Like, it was a drop mic weekend for me. But I got to share a story to those kids about how I grew up afraid. I grew up afraid of everything. I never even realized that growing up until now, that not just like a wimp. I mean, I was scared. And I think that's part of the reason why I like getting out there. I don't mind getting hurt. I want to get scuffed up. Like, it's okay to go out there and play without being afraid of getting your pants dirty. And there is something to be said about that.
It's a great resume builder. A couple of scars, a little blood.
I used to love coming to my corporate job on Mondays after like a good trifecta weekend. And they're like, this is Fight Club? Like, who is this guy?
How do people find you?
I am everywhere on social media at Stride Motivation, STRIDE Motivation. Also for my business is stridemotivation.com.
So you'll come in, you'll speak to companies, et cetera, groups?
Yep. I tell my story in a message of resilience, purpose, and creating a culture of extreme ownership.
And if when you're out there and you're talking to people, you're motivating people, if you need some complimentary entries, I'm always happy to do that, because I'm just trying to get people healthy.
Excellent. That's that's sort of my dream scenario, is to go speak somewhere on a Friday, pull a half a dozen people from the crowd out with me the next day.
Well, thanks for coming aboard. Love seeing you out there. Thanks for being Spartan.